Hi everyone, Elite Assassin here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Rogue Company. Now, Rogue Company is a third-person shooter from Hi-Res Studios, the makers of Smite and Paladins. Now, this game might not be that well known, and honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I follow one of the developers on Twitter, I honestly wouldn't have known about this game. One of the former Halo pros, Scott Slusser, aka Gandhi, works on this game, and ever since he tweeted out about it a while ago, I've been following his updates and saw that it finally came out in a early access format. One thing I do want to note right up front, this game is going to be free to play eventually. I want to make sure everyone's aware of that because you can actually purchase the game right now to play, but it is an early access build. So basically you're paying for an unfinished game. Luckily, the payment entry isn't that high. You can buy the normal edition for $15. There's also a $30 edition, which I bought, which comes with 8 more rogues or the characters unlocked, and a few skins and stuff. And there's also an Ultimate edition for $60, which comes with the 8 heroes I mentioned and a whole bunch of other like emotes, skins, sprays, and all that kind of stuff. Personally, like I said, I bought the $30 edition, and that's usually what I do for high-res games. Now, I'll talk about the rest of that toward the end of the video, because I want to get into the actual discussion here, and that is about the game. What is it? Rogue Company is a 4v4 objective-based third-person shooter. The best way to describe it using relative games would be it's kind of like a third-person Counter-Strike, or maybe more accurately, Valorant. And the reason I use the Valorant reference is because the rogues do have unique abilities that they come with. Luckily, a lot of these abilities aren't really game-breaking, at least that I've seen. I'll admit I haven't played around with all of them yet. I mostly focus on Ronin. She's really fun. She's more of a damage dealer. She's meant to go out there and do damage. Has katana, and her ultimate is actually one of the very few that do damage. It's a knife, which you'll see me very later on in the match actually chop someone down with. And I do get a kill with its explosive properties, which is what it's meant to be used for. Basically, you hit the 2 bumpers, you pull out this knife, and you can throw it, and it'll stick in the ground, be kind of like a proximity mine. I don't think it lasts that long on the map. It's not until it explodes, just there for a little while. And you use it to kind of cut off routes, or know when people are coming certain ways if they destroy it. Personally, I said I enjoy playing as her the most. I have tried some other characters, and they are pretty cool. Some do look a tad bit generic, I will admit, but overall I do enjoy the cast, and they do have a bit of personality to them. Another thing I wanted to mention about the characters before we move on is the fact that not every character has access to every gun. So luckily on the main screen, you can go over to the rogues, look at them, and see what guns they have access to. For example, Ronin has access to like an AK-47 assault rifle and an SMG. There's a hacker guy that I played as, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he had a shotgun and an SMG. And there are certain characters that have access to certain types of guns. There's only a few characters that have snipers, and certain grenades are only available for certain characters. So choosing the character you want to play as has a lot more to do with the guns they have access to than necessarily their abilities. Like, their abilities might be cool and might help a little bit, but the guns they have access to is probably the real reason why you're going to choose the characters. Now, moving on to the gameplay and the game modes. Right now, the beta has, well, I guess the early access game has 2 different game modes. First up, we have the competitive mode, which is called Demolition. Now, if you played Counter-Strike or Valorant, or enjoy Search and Destroy in Call of Duty, you played this game mode before. You know the idea. There's an attacking team and defending team. At a halftime, you switch sides, and the team who wins the most rounds wins. And you can win, of course, by eliminating the whole other team, because there are no respawns, or by arming the bomb, or disarming the bomb if you're the defenders. There also is a more casual mode, which is called Strikeout, Strikeout, again, is 4v4, but it's more of like a territory control game mode that has a limited amount of lives. I can't remember exactly how many lives you started out with, but basically either a team will hold the point for a lot amount of time, or the other team loses respawns and gets completely wiped out. I found both of these modes very enjoyable. I'll admit, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of elimination style games, so I really do appreciate the fact there's a mode that has respawns, and I do like the fact of having limited respawns. I really enjoy Gears of War's Team Deathmatch. I think that was a great way for them to do Team Deathmatch, was to have a life pool instead of just, respawning until 50 kills or however many kills happen. And of course allows you to come back and clutch like you would in an elimination game mode. Overall, I really did enjoy both these game modes, but I actually will admit I found myself enjoying Demolition more, which actually kind of surprised me. And I do believe that has to do with one very big difference with Rogue Company has compared to Counter-Strike and Valorant. And that is when you die, you don't lose all the guns that you bought. I really can't stress how much this actually makes the game that much more enjoyable to me. Because I'll admit, I played Counter-Strike. I never had a chance to play Valorant because I don't have a PC that could probably run it. Because all my PCs max I have are super freaking old. But whenever I played Counter-Strike, I wasn't good. I'm not going to lie. I'm not usually good at these types of games. But it really hurt my learning curve to play, get enough money for a gun, and then not know my positioning. We've been playing against people who played it for years and years and years, and just get absolutely wrecked and not really be able to learn the game, learn how the gun's fired. And I don't know, it just kind of took me out of the experience. Being able to not be punished that heavily for dying is good for me. Like I said, I understand that it might not be the most competitive setting, but for me to learn to play the game, I do appreciate not being punished that severely. I mean, honestly, being down a teammate and possibly losing the round for dying is pretty big punishment enough. As I mentioned earlier, depending on the rogue you choose depends on the guns you have access to. Now, one thing the game does do, even though you only have limited access to weapons, it does allow you to upgrade the weapons. So if you're not doing as well in a round, you don't lose all the guns that you have, but you might not have as much money to upgrade as many guns or buy the better perks you want as opposed to other players. So, I believe each gun has the main primary guns have 3 upgrades, and I believe the pistols and melee weapon have 2 upgrades. So, there are things you can still spend money on, even though you're not buying new guns, you're upgrading the guns you have, and if you're not doing good, you won't have the money to upgrade as much as other people. So, there still is that incentive to do good, and you're still punished in certain ways for not playing smart, but it's not as crippling as being stuck with a pistol when everyone else has sniper rifles. And if you plan to build it that way, you could, but if you know what you're doing, you won't be that far down. And one thing I wanted to bring up too is the melee weapons. You won't really see me use it in this video, you'll see me get wrecked by one actually. But a fun thing about the melee weapons is they're about like getting a 3-shot kill on a full health person, maybe more, but you can throw them. If you hit the left trigger or L2 if you're on PlayStation, your character will rear back with the weapon, and if you hit right trigger then, they'll throw the weapon. Every character can do this. And I do believe they do a really good chunk of damage, so if someone sees you with a melee weapon out, they might underestimate you, and if you chuck that melee weapon at them and then switch to a gun really quick, you can finish someone off real quick. So it's a pretty fun thing to do, and some people don't expect. And I think it's really cool to see that they gave melee weapons a little bit more impact on the game than just in close quarter situation. And it was really cool and really different. Overall, the store I do enjoy. Like I said, there are perks, starting at really cheap ones that allow you to do things like reload when you're running, or have, I think, run a little faster after taking damage, all the way up to, I've seen, be alerted when people are looking at you from 25 meters or less, I didn't really pay much attention to them, I'll be honest, but they do seem pretty good. And I think you only have one actually working at a time, because I saw when I chose a new one, it kind of over-equipped. I might be wrong there. So it is kind of balanced that way. But overall, I like the store and I do enjoy the gameplay. To me, this seems like a very fun game. Now, like I stated earlier, it's going to be free to play, so while I'm giving it a good glowing review, if you're someone that doesn't have that much disposable income, don't feel pressure to buy it right now. If you wait a bit, it will eventually be free to play, and I really do highly recommend you give this game a try when it's free to play. But if you're someone who has a few bucks lying around and want to play a new multiplayer game, specifically a competitive one to kind of fill that edge you're missing, definitely give this game a try. Like I said, the low cost of entry is $15. It's not too bad. It's not going to break the bank. And I do believe a lot of the additional characters that I have access to for paying $30 can be grinded out with the in-game currency. So they're not necessarily locked behind just a paywall. You can unlock them through playing. And I believe that's how most high-res games are. It just takes a while to get the stuff to unlock them, but you can unlock them eventually. So it's not too crushing. And I'm not quite sure if they're going to have like rogue rotations like Smite does. I think Paladins does too. We'll have to see. Another thing I wanted to mention is eventually coming to Rogue Company is a ranking system. As I mentioned before, former Halo Pro Gandhi does work on this game, and he did tweet out saying that Rogue Company is going to have a 1 to 50 ranking system, which is pretty cool. Going back to his Halo roots, and I don't think I've really seen a 1 to 50 rank system in anything else besides Halo, so it'll be cool to have that again, and I'm definitely looking forward to trying it out. Now, Rogue Company comes out is out for PC, Xbox One, PS4, and Switch. And I hope that Hi-Rez has the same thing they do for their other games, Smite and Paladins, and that is that your account is accessed platform-wide. So if I log on to Paladins on my Xbox or on my Switch, I have the same unlocks because it goes by your Hi-Rez account. And hopefully, a Rogue Company follows suit. And I'm pretty sure it would. I don't see why it wouldn't, since most of their games do this. And something that's really cool and a great thing for them to do. And it really cuts down too much on predatory microtransactions. Now, Hi-Rez is a company that a lot of their games are free to play, so they kind of live off microtransactions. But it's still cool to see that they're not going to gut you as bad as some companies might. To wrap things up, I definitely have to say I enjoy Rogue Company. Now, whether you're going to wait for it to be free to play or want to spend the $15 to try it out now, I would highly recommend you give it a shot at some point. Well, that's about it for me today. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later.
That was fun. What's next?